right, thanks, Sergeant. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, my apologies to the Bee Gees. Sorry to break up your little song and dance so we can get back to the formal portion here, but you guys were rocking it, so free beers to you from the commander and first sergeant at your next drill, okay? Hey, it's truly an honor for me to be here tonight, and sir, and first sergeant, thank you so much for having me. First sergeant and I go back about 9 years. We first met in the Pentagon when I was a SEAC. And this young NCO was walking down the hallway in my battle space, and I walked out and I said, "Hey, where the hell are you going?" "Well, I really don't know, but I know I got to get somewhere." So we met there, and then the next year we ran into each other when I was at the Army-Navy game with then President-elect Trump and Chairman Dunford and Secretary Mattis, and he was there hanging out, imbibing a little bit on some adult beverages there. So, and when he asked me to come out and speak here, because I was so impressed with how he was as a non-commissioned officer, the kind of leader he was and everything, I dropped everything and made the trip out here. And I got to spend last night with a bunch of fine NCOs from this organization drinking green tea. All right? I don't know what it was, but I woke up feeling like crap this morning. But thanks to you NCOs for hanging out last night. And thank you to all of you being here at this ball, the first time the 105th MP Company has had a ball since before COVID. And to see all of the family members and loved ones that are here tonight, thank you all for being here. And let's give the family members a hand right there, okay? Because we know the strength of our nation is our military, and the strength of our military is the men and women that serve in uniform, but the strength of those warriors in uniform is their families. So it's great to see the families here tonight. Now today is December 7th, and if you're a history buff, you would know 83 years ago was the attack on Pearl Harbor that started what became known as World War II. There was a regional conflict going on. We were an isolationist country, and there was fighting going on in Europe with the Germans and several nations there, and there was fighting going on in the Pacific with the Japanese and nations there. But until Pearl Harbor was attacked, the United States didn't enter the war. But on that day, we declared war on Germany and Japan. And President Roosevelt at the time said something significant. He said, December 7th, 1941 will be a day that will live in infamy because of the lost lives of Pearl Harbor and how we were so brazenly attacked on our own soil. And what led to then was 4 years of hard fighting that cost over 1 million United States casualties. But in the end, our country, the men and women, our forefathers that fought in that war, along with our partners and allies, prevailed, and freedom reigned. And we defeated evil and brought the warriors back home, and we continue to be that nation that everyone else looked to for freedom and a way of life. And now here we are. If you look at the world we serve in today, and you that are serving in uniform are today, it's a very contentious operating environment. And dare I say, probably the most contentious environment globally that we've had. And we're not even directly involved in any wars right now. But we have this thing going on, great power competition with Communist China, where we have to compete with China globally, not just militarily, but economically, in the diplomatic domain and in the information domain. We have two regional conflicts going on. Obviously, the war in Ukraine has been going on for almost 3 years, and now the Russians have introduced the North Koreans into this fight, and things are continuing to escalate with Russia introducing ballistic missiles, hypersonic type weapons and everything. And then October 7th of last year was the attack into Israel by Hamas out of Gaza. And since that attack on October 7th, Israel has been fighting Hamas, Hezbollah, and all of these Iranian proxies. Now we have troops in Syria, Iraq, and Jordan. And since October 7th last year, we've had over 200 attacks on our troops there with muted responses. And unfortunately, on January 28th of this year, we lost 3 Army reservists who were killed by an enemy drone attack. And then if you look at the Korean Peninsula, on any given day, the hostilities there from the Korean War. We didn't sign a treaty that ended that war. We signed a ceasefire. And here we are 70 years later, and on any given day, one provocative act by the North Koreans could cause a resumption of hostilities there. And terrorism may be a nation threat with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but let there be no doubt that they still exist. They still have radical fighters, they still have funding, and let there be no doubt that they want to plan, prepare, export, and execute high-end terrorist attacks on Western Europe, in North America, and most certainly in the United States. And if they can't do it themselves, then they will look to inspire American citizens to do it with them. And as I said, we are one provocative act or one malign activity by one of those actors, whether it's a nation state or non-state actor, that could cause us to end up in a large-scale combat operation. So my message to you tonight, we as a military exist for three reasons. Obviously to defend our homeland and our way of life and win our nation's wars, but we have to compete every day with nations like China and Russia. We have to respond to crisis, which means a level of readiness and lethality that we have to have all the time. And ultimately, we exist to fight and win. And when we get called to fight, let there be no doubt we are there to win. So we are an expeditionary military. When you look at our force, 51% of the entire United States military is made up by the Army and Air National Guard. So I say this to you because if we do end up in a large-scale combat operation, God forbid, the National Guard, the 105th MP Company, is going to have a huge part in that. And I pray that that doesn't happen in the future. But reality is what it is, and the world is what it is. So every day you got to focus on being more lethal at your job. Your ability to move, shoot, and communicate. Every day you got to look to being more fit. How do you continue to get more physically, mentally, and emotionally fit, and technically and tactically proficient in your skills, whatever you do, whatever your job is. And obviously you got to be ready, because the call can come at any time. Obviously you're a National Guard unit and the governor gets a vote, but when we start federalizing National Guard troops, you can't be getting on a transport aircraft heading to some foreign country and thinking, man, I wish I would have prepared. So every day you got to continue to work to build cohesive teams, to continue to be an individual that has a peak operating capability when it comes to doing your job and everything. And let there be no doubt, it's not just we're asking you to do that. The American people, all 330 million Americans, expect you to be ready to deploy, fight, and win. So you got to take your job seriously. You got to continue to get after your mission. And you got to be ready to go. God forbid if that call comes. And if you're a non-commissioned officer, an officer out here, you owe it to the men and women in your charge to be the best leader that you can be. Be a leader of presence, meaning that troops get fired up when you're there. They're ready to go and get after the mission. A leader that performs, that will not ask their subordinates to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves. And in the end, you got to be persistent at getting after a high level of readiness, high level of lethality and fitness and cohesiveness to make your organization the best it can be. And I've got confidence in this organization. I've only been around leaders here for 24 hours, but I've been impressed. And I spent the night here with the company commander and first sergeant, and I think the 105th MP Company is a company that our nation can be proud of. And to tell you the truth, to bring a little levity to this, I actually feel sorry for those bastards, whoever it is, the communist China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, or any of the terrorist organizations. Because we have competitive warfighting advantages over every one of them. We know how to fight wars. We have this thing known as mid-level leadership and management, known as non-commissioned officers, that is the backbone of our military, when the vast majority of those militaries don't have it. And if you want to know why the Russians are getting their ass kicked in Ukraine right now, it's because they don't have that mid-level management. And when the Ukrainians start taking the officers out, The Joes are doing what Joes normally do. Well, shit, let's just smoke a cigarette and figure out what's going to happen next. So I feel sorry for them. But in the end, I send a message to any of those people that want to do something bad to United States citizens, our country, to our military, whatever. And whoever it is, if it's a nation state or a non-state actor, I say to them, you've got two options if you come up against the United States military. You can surrender or you can die. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're a peace-loving nation. Okay? Nobody wants to go to war. But when we're forced to do so, we're going to do it, and we are going to be the decisive arm for victory. So if we surrender, we're going to treat them humanely. We're going to safeguard them to a detainee holding facility cell. We're going to provide them food and shelter. But most importantly, we're going to provide them with due process in a military tribunal court of law. But let there be no doubt, if they choose not to surrender and they choose to attack us or our citizens, then we're going to kill them. Whether that's dropping bombs on them from the greatest air force on the planet, shooting them, or if need be, beating them to death with our entrenching tools. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, we will not allow any nation state or non-state actor to impinge on our freedoms, our homeland, and our way of life. And the 105th MP Company is a shining example of the men and women that serve in uniform that will say, not on my watch will I allow it to happen to me, my family, or my nation. So, go out and be the best that you can be every day. Look out for each other, look out for your families, and just know that there is a nation of veterans and ordinary citizens that are extremely proud of your service to the greatest nation on the planet. So God bless you all. God bless the 105th MP Company, the United States Army, the Army National Guard, and most importantly, God bless America. Thank you all.